So let's get right into it. The first hidden fee. This is the big one. It's probably the most common and in the long run, the most damaging. It's the investment advisory fee, specifically the assets under management or AUM fee. Now, most of you've done the right thing. You've worked with a financial advisor. You have a person, a guy or a gal, who manages your portfolio. And how do they get paid? The most common model, the one that has become the industry standard, is they charge you a percentage of your total assets. Maybe it's 1.5%. Maybe it's 1%. If you have a lot of money with them, maybe you've negotiated it down to 0.8%. And that sounds reasonable, doesn't it? What's 1%? It's a penny on the dollar. It feels insignificant. And that is the genius of it. That's why it's so insidious. It doesn't feel like a fee at all. You never write a check for it. You never get a bill in the mail that says, you owe us $10,000 for managing your money this year. No, it just disappears. It's quietly swept out of your account, quarter after quarter, before you even see your statement. It's a ghost in the machine. Let me put this in perspective for you. I was having lunch a few years back with an old colleague from my days at Wharton, a brilliant guy, a quant, one of these people who sees the world entirely in numbers. And he said something to me that I've never forgotten. He said, the single most powerful force in the universe is compound interest, and the single most destructive force is compound fees. Think about that. Compound fees. Let's do some simple math. Let's say you have $1 million portfolio, a nice healthy nest egg that you've worked your whole life to build, and you're paying that standard 1% AUM fee. 1% of $1 million is $10,000. That's $10,000 a year, every single year. That's going into your advisor's pocket instead of staying in yours. Now, you might think, well, if they're doing a good job, it's worth it. We'll get to that in a minute. But let's look at the compounding effect. Let's say that $10,000, had it stayed in your account, would have grown at a conservative 7% per year, which is around the historical average of the stock market. In the first year, you pay $10,000. The next year, you pay another $10,000, but you also lose the 7% growth you would have had on the first $10,000. So that's another $700 gone. The year after that, it's another $10,000 fee, plus the growth on the $20,700 that's already been taken. You see how this starts to snowball. It's not just the fee itself. It's the ghost of the growth that fee would have generated for you. It's a double whammy. You lose the principal, and you lose its future children, and its grandchildren, and its great-grandchildren. Over 10 years, that 1% fee on your $1 million portfolio hasn't just cost you $100,000. When you factor in the lost growth, it's closer to $140,000. Over 20 years, it's not $200,000. It's nearly $400,000. And over 30 years, a typical retirement horizon for someone at 55 or 60, that tiny $1,400,000. And over 30 years, a typical retirement horizon for someone at 55 or 60, that tiny 1% fee has vaporized over $400,000. And over 30 years, a typical retirement horizon for someone at 55 or 60, that tiny $1,750,000 from your nest egg. 3/4 of your initial principal, gone. Siphoned off so quietly you never even heard it happening. Does that sound like a small fee to you? I remember talking to Jack Bogle, the founder of Vanguard, God rest his soul, a true revolutionary, a saint for the common investor. Jack built his entire company, his entire philosophy, around this one simple, powerful idea. Costs matter. They matter more than almost anything else. He used to call it the tyranny of compounding costs, and he was absolutely right. He saw, decades before anyone else, that the biggest hurdle for the average investor wasn't picking the right stock. It was simply keeping what they earn. Now, the industry will tell you, well, we earn our keep. We provide valuable advice. We do financial planning. We help you stay the course. And for some, that's true. A good advisor can be worth their weight in gold. But here's the dirty little secret. The vast, vast majority of active fund managers, the people your advisor is likely putting your money with, do not beat the market over the long term. Study after study, year after year, proves this. SPIVA, the S&P Dow Jones Index versus Active Report, it's the gold standard. And it shows consistently that over any 10 or 15-year period, something like 80 to 90% of active fund managers fail to beat their benchmark index. So, let me get this straight. You're paying a 1% fee to an advisor, who then puts your money into mutual funds that charge their own internal fees. We call those expense ratios. maybe another 0.5% or 1%. So now you're at 1.5% to 2% in total fees, very likely to be worse than if you just bought a simple, low-cost S&P 500 index fund and let it sit. It's madness. It's like paying a chef a fortune to go to the grocery store, buy a frozen pizza, heat it up in the microwave, and serve it to you on a fancy plate. You could have done it yourself for a tiny fraction of the cost and gotten the exact same or likely better result. You need to have a very, very frank conversation with your advisor. Ask them, point blank, what are my all-in costs, not just your fee? I want to know your fee, the expense ratios of the funds you have me in, any trading costs, any other administrative fees. I want a single number in dollars that I'm paying every year. Don't let them dance around. Demand clarity. Second, explore alternatives. There's a growing movement of fee-only financial planners. These people don't charge a percentage of your assets. They charge a flat fee for their time and their advice, maybe a few $1,000s a year or an hourly rate. Their incentive isn't to just gather as many assets as possible. Their incentive is to give you good advice. The conflict of interest is vastly reduced. And third, for the love of God, educate yourself about low-cost index funds and ETFs. This was Jack Bogle's great gift to the world. The ability to buy the entire market, the 500 biggest companies in America, or the entire world stock market, for a fee that is practically zero. We're talking 0.03% or 0.04%. That's not 1 penny on the dollar. That's 4 cents on $100. The difference, compounded over your retirement, is the difference between a comfortable life and a life of constant financial anxiety. It's the difference between leaving a legacy for your children and leaving them with worries. This one fee, this one single thing, can change your entire financial destiny. Please, I implore you, look into it. Okay, deep breath. That was the heavy one. Let's move on to the second hidden fee. This one is even quieter, even more subtle. You can't find it on any statement, no matter how hard you look, because this fee is charged by the government and the central bank. I'm talking about inflation. Inflation is the silent tax. It's the great wealth destroyer for anyone who holds cash. We hear the number on the news, inflation is 3%, it's 5%, it was 9%, and it just becomes noise. Abs paying every single day to hold your own money. Think of it this way. If you have a $100 bill in your wallet, and inflation is running at 5% at the end of the year, you still have a $100 bill. It looks the same. It feels the same. But it can only buy you $95 worth of goods and services. A $5 fee has been deducted from its purchasing power. Gone. Vanished into thin air. Now who does this hurt the most? It hurts savers. It hurts people on fixed incomes. It hurts retirees. It hurts the very people in this room who have done the responsible thing their whole lives. People who have lived below their means, saved diligently, and accumulated a nest egg they thought would be safe. I grew up, and my parents, they were Depression-era people. And to them, the absolute safest place for money was in the bank, in a savings account, a certificate of deposit. You got your passbook, you saw the number, and you knew it was there. It was safe. And for a long time, that wasn't a terrible strategy, because interest rates were higher than inflation. You could actually earn a real return. But the world has changed. For the better part of the last 2 decades, the interest you earn in a savings account has been a joke. 0.1%, maybe 1% if you're lucky. Meanwhile, official inflation has averaged 2 to 3%, and we all know the real inflation, the cost of the things we actually buy. Healthcare, education, food, housing, has been much, much higher than that. So if you have, say, $200,000 sitting in a yield savings account earning 1%, but inflation 4%, you're not earning 1%. You are losing 3% of your purchasing power every single year. You are paying a 3% hidden fee to the system for the illusion of safety. You're on a financial treadmill, and the person in charge of the controls is slowly but surely cranking up the speed, and you're running faster and faster just to stay in the same place, and eventually, you will fall off. I remember in the late 70s, when I was just getting started, I was at a dinner with a much older, much wiser mentor, and Paul Volcker had just been appointed chairman of the Fed. Inflation was running at 13 to 14%. It was a terrifying time. And this mentor of mine, he took a napkin and he drew a horizontal line. He said, "This is your money." Then he drew a steep, downward sloping line intersecting it. "And this," he said, "is what inflation is way, is to find an asset that rises faster than this line falls." That stuck with me. You cannot save your way to prosperity in an inflationary environment. You must invest. You must own assets that have the ability to grow and produce income that outpaces the rate at which your currency is being devalued. What are those assets? Historically, they have been things like stocks, ownership in great businesses. Because what does a company like Coca-Cola or Procter & Gamble do? When their costs go up, they raise their prices. They pass the inflation on to the consumer. As a shareholder, you are a beneficiary of that pricing power. Another one is real estate. What happens to rents in an inflationary environment? They go up. As a landlord, you are protected. Certain commodities, inflation-protected bonds, these are all tools in the toolbox. The point is, cash is not a safe haven. It is a guaranteed loser. Holding large amounts of cash or cash equivalents beyond your 12-month emergency fund is like storing your grain in a silo with a hole in the bottom. Every day, a little bit more leaks out. You don't notice it day to day, but one day you'll go to open the silo and you'll be shocked at how much is gone. Please do not let inflation eat your retirement alive. It is a fee. Treat it as such and invest to overcome it. All right, the third hidden fee. This one is an emotional one. This is the one that can come out of nowhere in your 60s, 70s, or 80s and cause absolute devastation. Not just financially, but emotionally. I'm talking about unplanned for healthcare and long-term care costs. This is a fee that hides in plain sight. We all know we're going to get older. We all know we're going to need more medical care. But we have this mental block. We think, I have Medicare, I'll be covered. And that is one of the most dangerous financial assumptions a person over 55 can make. Medicare is a wonderful program. It's a lifesaver for millions of seniors. But it is not a blank check. It was never designed to cover everything. There are premiums, like for Part B and Part D. There are deductibles you have to meet. There are co-pays and co-insurance. These things add up. The Fidelity Retiree Healthcare Cost Estimate, which is a pretty reliable benchmark, currently projects that an average 65-year-old couple retiring today will need approximately $315,000 in after-tax savings just to cover their health catastrophic illness. That's just for the routine stuff. Did you budget for that? Is that number in your financial plan? For most people, the answer is no. It's a hidden fee that you end up paying out of your living expenses, out of the money you thought you had for travel, for hobbies, for your grandkids. But that's not even the big one. The number that can truly empty your bank account, the one that keeps me up at night when I think about friends and family, is long-term care. This is the stuff Medicare explicitly, and for the most part, does not cover. We're talking about assistance with daily living, a home health aide, assisted living facilities, and the big one, nursing home care. The national median cost for a private room in a nursing home is now over $100,000 a year. Let me say that again. Over $100,000 per year. And the average stay can be 2 to 3 years. For a couple, if one spouse needs care, you could be looking at a $250,000 bill. Easy. For a disease like Alzheimer's, which can require years of specialized memory care, the costs can run into the high six figures, or even over $1 million. I saw this happen to a man I respected immensely. A brilliant engineer built a successful manufacturing business from the ground up. Had a net worth of probably $5 or $6 million. He and his wife had plans. They were going to travel, set up a foundation for their grandkids' education. They had it all figured out. And then his wife was diagnosed with early-onset Alzheimer's. For the first few years, he cared for her at home, but it became too much. He had to hire 24-hour in-home care. The cost was astronomical. Then she needed to move into a specialized memory care facility. Another huge expense. He was a proud man. He didn't want to rely on his kids. He said, "I'll take care of my bride." And he did. He spent down nearly their entire life savings over the course of 8 years to give her the best care possible. When she passed away, he was left with their house and a couple $100,000. The travel plans, the foundation, all gone. Vaporized by this one, single, unplanned-for fee. Your children. What are your wishes? What are your resources? Ignoring it won't make it go away. Second, if you're still working and you have a high-deductible health plan, you absolutely must be contributing the maximum to a health savings account, an HSA. An HSA is the single greatest retirement savings vehicle ever created, in my opinion. It's triple tax advantaged. The money goes in tax-free, it grows tax-free, and it comes out tax-free for qualified medical expenses. It's a medical IRA. You should be maxing it out every single year and investing it for growth, not just letting it sit in cash. That HSA can become your dedicated war chest for healthcare costs in retirement. Third, you have to investigate long-term care insurance. There are hybrid policies now that combine life insurance with a long-term care rider. So if you never use the care benefit, your heirs get a death benefit. It's not a use it or lose it proposition anymore. Who understands these products? And see if it makes sense for your situation. For some, it will be the smartest money they ever spend. For others, self-insuring might be the right call, but you have to run the numbers. You have to make a conscious choice, not just let it happen to you by default. This is a fee you can see coming, if you choose to open your eyes. Don't let it be the one that derails a lifetime of hard work. Okay, the fourth and final hidden fee. This one is different. The first three fees are external. They're charged by the financial industry, by the government, by the healthcare system. This last fee? This one is internal. It's the fee you charge yourself. I call it the emotional fee, or the behavior gap. What do I mean by that? It's not a recession. We are hardwired to do the exact wrong thing at the exact wrong time. When the market is soaring and everyone is euphoric, our greed kicks in. We want in. We buy high. We chase the hot stock we heard about at a cocktail party. And when the market is plummeting, when there is blood in the streets and the headlines are terrifying, our fear takes over. We can't stand the pain anymore. We sell. We panic and sell low, locking in our losses. Buy high, sell low. It's the perfect recipe for financial ruin. And we do it over and over again. Every year, a company called Dalbar does a famous study called the Quantitative Analysis of Investor Behavior. And every single year, it shows the same depressing thing. It compares the return of the S&P 500 index over the last 20 or 30 years to the return of the average equity mutual fund investor, and the gap is staggering. For example, over a 30-year period, the stock market might return an average of 10% per year, but the average investor in stock funds might only earn 6% or 7% per year. That difference, that 3 to 4% gap every single year, that is the emotional fee. That is the cost of your own bad behavior. Let's put that in dollars. On that same $1 million portfolio we talked about, a 10% return over 30 years turns it into almost $17.5 million. A 7% return, which is what the average investor might get after their bad decisions, turns it into just over $7.6 million. That is a nearly 6 million. That is a nearly **7.6 million. That is a nearly 10 million ** fee, a fee you paid to yourself for the privilege of panicking. There is no fee charged by Wall Street that can even come close to the damage we can inflict upon ourselves. I've seen it 100 times. I saw it in the financial crisis of 2008. I have friends, brilliant people, doctors, lawyers, entrepreneurs, who I know for a fact sold everything near the bottom in 2008. They just couldn't take it anymore. They said, I just need to get out, go to cash, and wait for things to calm down. And what happened? They locked in 40 to 50% losses. And then they sat in cash while the market began one of the greatest bull runs in history. And they were too scared to get back in. They kept waiting for the perfect time, for the next dip. And they missed it. They missed all of it. They paid the ultimate price, the ultimate emotional fee. They traded temporary peace of mind for permanent financial impairment. I remember a conversation with Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's brilliant partner. We were talking about what separates the great investors from everyone else. And he said in his typical blunt way, it's not IQ, it's temperament. It's the ability to be greedy when others are fearful, and fearful when others are greedy. It's the ability to sit still, to do nothing, to let the storm pass. And that is so hard for us to do. We are creatures of action. We feel like we have to do something. But in investing, often the most profitable thing you can do is absolutely nothing. So how do you combat this fee? First, you have to have a plan, a written investment policy statement. It should state your goals, your time horizon, your risk tolerance, and your target asset allocation, your mix of stocks and bonds. You write it down when you are calm and rational, and then you put it in a drawer. And when the world is going crazy and you feel that panic rising in your chest, you take out that piece of paper and you read it. It is your pre-commitment. It is the voice of your rational self speaking to your emotional self. Second, automate as much as you can. Set up automatic investments from your bank account every month. Turn on automatic dividend reinvestment. The less you have to think about it, the less you have to make an active decision, the less likely you are to screw it up. Let the machine do the work. Third, and this is crucial, stop looking at your portfolio every day. It's financial pornography. It does you no good. The daily gyrations of the market are almost entirely random noise. Watching it is like checking on a sapling every 5 minutes to see if it's grown. You'll drive yourself crazy. Maybe you check your statements once a quarter. Once a year, you sit down, you look at your allocation, and you rebalance back to your original targets if things have gotten out of whack. That's it. Benign neglect is a powerful investment strategy. And finally, this is where a good advisor, a true fiduciary, a fee-only planner, can earn their entire fee in one phone call. Their most important job is not to pick hot stocks. It's to be a behavioral coach. It's to be the person who gets on the phone with you when you're about to hit the panic button and says, "Stop, let's talk about the plan. Nothing has changed about your long-term goals. Do not do this." That service, that one act of talking you off the ledge, can be worth hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars over your lifetime. That is a fee worth paying. So there they are. 4 horsemen of the financial apocalypse for retirees. The slow grinding drain of AUM fees, the silent corrosive tax of inflation, the shocking life-altering blow of unplanned healthcare costs, and the self-inflicted devastating wound of the emotional fee. They all have one thing in common: they are quiet, they work in the shadows, and they prey on inertia, on inattention, and on fear. But my message to you tonight is not one of fear. It is one of empowerment. You are not helpless. You have spent your entire lives working, saving, planning, and building something of value. You are in the home stretch. Now is not the time to take your eye off the ball. Now is the time for vigilance. You have the power to ask the tough questions. You have the power to demand transparency. You have the power to educate yourselves. You have the power to create a plan. And most importantly, the discipline to stick to it. Your financial future, your peace of mind, the legacy you leave for your family. It is too important to be left to chance. It is too precious to be silently eroded by forces you don't understand. Turn on the lights, look in the corners, find the leaks, and plug them. Future self will thank you for it more than you can possibly imagine. Thank you very much for your time tonight. It's been a privilege.